welcome to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I am very happy that you joined me today. It's a pleasure to have an audience to talk to, and this is going to be my last solo show for the year. So we'll have other guests on later on in the week, but this is my last solo show for 2022. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank some people, starting with the Soundview family. I want to thank my technician, Francisco, who volunteers his time here faithfully every single week to do all the technical work to make sure that this show airs every single week. I also want to thank Boomy. She's the production director. And I want to thank Rick and John. John is the executive director. And of course, I'd like to thank David Goodman for leaving us this platform for the community. I feel so honored and so blessed that I'm able to have this opportunity to be in front of so many people, to bring on different perspectives, to bring on different guests, and to give the community information that you may or may not know about. It's a pleasure to be able to do that. I am so passionate about information. I have my own radio station. Well, not my own radio station, I'm sorry, correction. My own little radio show, because as you know, I'm an independent health and life insurance agent. So I give out information on Medicare because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have all the information. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I do my own little segment on Radio 1400.am. Radio 1400.am every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. You can tune in to the Medicare and Retirement Planning Show. And that's absolutely free information. And you can listen to it on demand, smart speaker. Even if you have a flip phone, there is a number that you can dial to listen into that. So, my goal is to get the information out there. We actually did a live broadcast from the Bridgeport Library last week on Broad Street. Milford Edwards is the owner of Radio 1400.am, and he set it up in the Bridgeport Library where he had different small business owners coming in, talking about their business, just to get the information out there. That radio station is a key component to this community as well. It's a resource for information. If you need information about, insurance, or if you need information about reverse mortgages, legal information, prayer, therapy, Radio 1400.am is one of the places that you can go to get that information. He also does what is really unique, a community hour. So I was on that. He kind of interviews you. And thank God he edited it because, sometimes you're doing stuff live, you might not, get it all right or mispronounce a word or something. But that's really, really nice what he does. He interviews you. He asks you questions about your business or whatever it is that you're doing. And then he plays that at a key time. I think it's between 12 and 1 or 1 and 2, even on the weekend, so you can listen to it. And it just, it just gives you free information. So I am, an advocate for information. Get it out there on multiple platforms. I also do seminars. I do live seminars at community centers, senior centers, and churches. It doesn't cost anything at all. If you have a church that you'd like me to come to and speak to about any type of insurance, it is absolutely free. I will come and do it on a Sunday after service or after Bible study or whenever it's needed, because the church is forgotten about in a lot of aspects right now, especially since we shut down for COVID. We shut down for COVID for like a year, or in some cases, maybe longer. And so people were not coming to church. I don't know if everybody was mailing their tithes in or whatever, but a lot of things stopped. And I know that, a lot of the money stopped as well. People are losing their jobs, so staying home, restaurants shutting down, and things like that. So the church really suffered a lot because they weren't open. And just because, COVID shut down didn't mean that you still got to put the lights on, you still got to pay the bills, you still have to pay the mortgage. And another thing that happens in the church community that a lot of people don't realize, and that is when you lose members, like your seniors. So if you lose your seniors, you're going to the same church for a long time. Unfortunately, we're all going to die one day. We're not going to live forever. So when you lose members, you also lose tithes. And when you lose tithes, you lose money that the church needs to operate. So what a lot of folks do is in their life insurance policy, they've set up life insurance. And so when they pass on, they'll make the church part of the beneficiary, maybe 10%, maybe 20%. If you don't have a family, you want to leave it all to the church. So that's another thing that, can help the churches out in this community. That's one area where I will come and do a free seminar, churches, community centers, whatever it takes to get the information out there. So getting back to my thank yous, I wanted to thank Tony, Bart, and Charlie Coviello, who is no longer with us. I hope he rests in peace. But I did see Tony the other night at my Minority Business Association meeting, and he's still doing the same thing. But Tony, Bart, Charlie, and my cousin Glenn Petway, they got me started here. Actually, it was my cousin Glenn. He invited me on the show. I guess those three guys were hosting the David Goodman show because we want this David Goodman show to go on forever. This is his legacy, and we're going to keep it going for as long as we possibly can. I know I'm going to do everything I can. So anyway, they got me started. My cousin Glenn invited me on the show just to talk about Medicare and things like that. And so, of course, they liked me. And they asked me to come on every week. And so I started coming on and, started, making myself present with information. And then those guys kind of they saw that I was taking over. Well, I wasn't trying to take over, but they saw that I loved doing it and I was faithfully coming every single week or as much as I can. Then that would free them up to give them the opportunity to do other things. And so I appreciate that. My cousin Glenn he's so busy, involved in the community. I'm trying to get him on the show. I saw Tony Wednesday night, and he said, Vanita, I can't do it Monday. I can't do it next week. So every time I see him, it's the same old thing. So I don't even ask anymore. Hopefully one day he'll just show up and we'll throw him in. But I want to thank those guys for introducing me to this show. It's really an honor to be here. And so I really appreciate that. Another thing, I want to welcome one of our newest members to the Soundview family. Her name is Dr. Sonji Phillips. And if you subscribe and you've been listening to the show or watching the show, she is an organizational psychologist. And she has a website where she does free classes on training. And it's geared toward children with challenges, disabilities, and things like that. But for me, I see it being helpful for every family. So she wants to do a show every single month, and we want her to do a show every single month. I welcome this information. This is just a great asset to this family to have someone, an organizational psychologist, come on the show and give us information every single week that will be for the betterment of our lives. I'm already using some of the information just by listening to her. With my family, even though my boys they're grown now, but you can still use it. I find myself using her information in different facets of my life. And it's making it better. And I understand training a lot more now than I did before. I used to think training was so boring and, you just listen to somebody talk and talk. And that's what she said when she does her training. If you're listening to somebody talk and talk and talk for 3 days and then you put them in the field to do something, it's like, okay, whatever wasn't discussed, something happens that wasn't discussed, then you're at a standstill. You don't know what to do. So you have to kind of alternate that. One day of verbal training and then one day of on-the-job training. So the thing that I really learned from her is that just because you train somebody, say for example, I'm doing a seminar and I'm talking about Medicare and I'm training people and educating people on the A, B, C, and D's of Medicare. And by the time I'm done talking, that's my training, that's my verbal training. By the time I'm done talking, if that person doesn't understand, then my training was unsuccessful. And I need to do something else to make adjustments for that person. But then there may be another person in the audience that understood every single thing that I said. So everybody learns on different levels, and just because you did the training doesn't mean that it worked for everybody. And so you have to make adjustments. And that's what I'm learning to do with her. I think she's fantastic. Definitely talented, educated, and she really knows what she's talking about. So I just want to welcome her to the Soundview family. It's going to be a pleasure to have her on once a month. She's going to be on the 20th of January. So she's usually here the second or the third week of the month. I think that works good for her. At least that's what we discussed, because she travels every single month, up and down the East Coast, training parents. I think that's amazing that she does that. And speaking of, we were supposed to have, let's see, what's her name? Tyree Robinson. She is the regional president of M&T Bank. She is going to be here January 13th. At least that's what's on the schedule. I'm going to hold her to it. Because she has a lot of information regarding small businesses. So if you have a small business and you're in this area, you really want to tune in to that show, which is going to be aired on YouTube January 13th. And it'll be aired throughout the week on Soundview TV, channel 77, 88, 99, depending on your cable vision or your network that you have. But one of the things that she talks about is how she's going to be able to help the small business community in the greater Bridgeport area. And that's what we're looking for here. We need a bank that understands us. We're inner city, mostly Bridgeport, New Haven, Waterbury. We're inner city, and sometimes we're left out. And the thing that she does that really that I really got excited about was when they talked about small businesses. And when you're doing a small business loan, I guess, you have to go through all the financials and make sure all the paperwork is right and so on and so forth. And so they're a bank, number one, you don't have to have $50 million to be treated like a A-list client. So one of the things that she talked about that really, really impressed me is when it comes to giving out loans like a mom and pop business, is that it doesn't just depend on your financials. Everything doesn't have to be, in writing or in the financials. It's also the story behind the business, how your business got started, how you struggled and didn't really take a salary for a year, and then COVID came and shut down and you lost everything. And so she listens to all of that, and that is what impressed me. And I can't wait for her to explain it to you. I guess I'm probably doing a okay job explaining it, but tune into her for January 13th. And if something comes up and she's unable to make it, I will keep you informed, because I'm relentless and I will call until she get here. And so we're also trying to get her or someone from M&T Bank to come and do, give us information at our Minority Business Association meetings, which we have the last Wednesday of every month. It's open to the public. If you're a minority business, and minority is defined as under $5 million, not a certain group or anything, it's just the amount of money. If your business, if you have a small business under $5 million, then you're considered minority business. And that's what M&T Bank focuses on, and that's one of the reasons we love them as a community, community bank. And so I'm looking forward to having her on, and I'm looking forward to having Dr. Sonji Phillips on every single month. I get so excited when she comes on. So I want to also thank my family, because I am a family person. If my family life is in order, of course I put God number one. God is number one. That goes without saying. But when my family life is in order, even though everything else could be going wrong, I'm on commission. I probably, didn't get paid for 2 or 3 weeks, or, some of my applications got rejected or denied. And if that happens, I'm 100% commission. I get absolutely nothing. So even if everything at work is going wrong, and everything at organizations are going wrong, if my family life is in order and I put God first, I believe that everything else will just fall into place eventually. I don't get all frazzled about it. I mean, things happen, but you do need money. So not getting paid for 2 or 3 weeks is, a little stressful. But, if my family life is in order, I think everything will fall into place. And so I try to treat all my clients like my family. When I sit down with a client, they have my undivided attention to talk about whatever it is they need. I don't rush. I don't pressure. I give out free information on the 4 areas that will affect their lives the most. And what they do with that information is entirely up to them. And the way I do it is I ask questions. And then based on their answers, I put that to them in the form of a recommendation on how I could help them. So by answering my questions, they're pretty much telling me what they want to do when they retire, or, Medicare or life insurance or whatever it may be. So I ask the questions about all those 4 areas. So I treat all my clients like family members. Actually, I get to talk about my fish fry again. I have an annual fish fry barbecue for all of my clients. They get invited to my house for a free meal, home cooked by my husband, and he can cook really good. I call him the grill master, and we cook outside year round, at least until things are like frozen up in February, maybe a little bit January, February, we may not cook, but we cook outside year round. We fry outside, we smoke turkeys and chickens, we grill, we do everything outside. So my kitchen stays nice and clean. I like that part too. So anyway, the point is, to show appreciation for my clients supporting me, I have this event in their honor, and I ask them to, bring a guest and introduce them to me, because that's how, I do business. I have prospects, and that's the way I make my living. And I want to thank everybody for their continued support of my business. And they come every year, and I do annual reviews. I check to make sure, if their doctors drop out of the network, or, if they're on new medications, and I review all of their policies, like the life insurance policies. You want to make sure, you always want to check your beneficiaries, because life happens. People get divorced, people have babies, we lose people. So you always got to make sure every time you have a major event in your family that you check all the beneficiaries on your 401ks, your IRAs, your financial contracts, and all of your life insurance. Because if you have another grandchild, you probably want to split whatever, you have between the two grandchildren, just for an example. So I do things like that. I just don't believe anyone is all set with everything. I talk to people about having power of attorney. You got to have a financial power of attorney, and you also need a medical power of attorney. And this is just not at a certain age. You could do this at any time, especially if you have children. God forbid, what if when my children were small, what if me and my husband went to the movies and was in a fatal accident and never came back? What would happen to my kids? So those are the type of questions that I ask. Do you have a will? And, why do you need a will? Some people would be, well, I don't have any assets. I'm not rich. I don't have anything. If you have children, you have assets. Because if something, like I said, if something happens to you or, or your husband or spouse or, the father, and you guys are together, you're on a trip to Jamaica, a plane crash or whatever. And I know I have to think of worst case scenario. I hate to sound so bad, but that's what it's all about. But people die, and when they do die, you want to make sure you have the most important things in order. So if you have children under 18, you want to make sure that you have a will to say who you want your kids to live with. Because believe me, this is a reality show, so I'm just going to put it out there. There's a lot of greedy relatives that will take your kids just to get your insurance policy, just to get the money. And they may not be the best fit for your kids. So me and my husband, we got our will. We had nothing. I was probably behind in all of my bills and everything at the time when I had both my kids in daycare, and we were paying this big mortgage and this and that and the other. So, but I did have a will. And the only thing of value in my will were my two boys. If anything were to happen to us before they grew up, I had it detailed exactly who I wanted to raise them, where I wanted them raised, and I knew the person that would do that. And that person was my very best friend, Diane. She was the very best friend that I have, and I know she would take excellent care of my boys. She's not greedy for the money or anything like that. She has her own. And we've been friends for a good part of 4 decades, so I trust her with my kids. So anyway, getting back to being all set. No one is all set. A lot of people think that a will would stop probate. Not true. A will starts probate. And that's another thing that I do. I go over and I educate people about the 4 evils that would affect your nest egg. Evil number 1 for when you're getting to be a senior is long-term care. Evil number 2 is probate. Evil number 3 is taxes, and then evil number 4 is market fluctuation. So what I do is I go through everything in your nest egg and show you how those evils are threatening your nest eggs. And then I show you where the safe houses are, how to protect yourself from those evils. So, there's a lot of things that you could do. And then what if you need long-term care? And you have property, and what if it's me and my husband and I need long-term care and he doesn't? So I may have to go into a nursing home and he's, at home. How does that situation play out? So you want to make sure you think worst case scenario and that you're prepared for that. And that's pretty much the bottom line, because nobody is all set. And the life insurance, there's probably 40% of the people in Connecticut don't have basic life insurance. And I know that from all the GoFundMes, and I know that because I'm in that business. They just don't have any life insurance. And I try to explain to people how important it is. And it's kind of like the last thing on everybody's list. I think it should be one of the first things on your list. I think you should have life insurance before you walk around with $200 sneakers on. Reevaluate your priority list. Reprioritize it. Get your life in order. And make sure that you are, if not all set, as close to all set as you can be. Make sure that at least your children are taken care of. And make sure that if you leave this earth, you're not going to be a burden to someone having to do a GoFundMe to do burial arrangements or something like that. Okay, so I just want to end this show. And I know I've thanked everybody, Soundview, Francisco, Boomy, Rick, John, David Goodman, Tony, Charlie, Glenn Petway, and Sanji Phillips. But I also want to do, last but not least, my biggest thank you is to my audience. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. If you missed the show, follow us on YouTube, okay? We're online on YouTube, so if you happen to be at work, you can catch us later. Thank you very much. And like I said, it's my last solo show, but I'll see you guys next week. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.